So, hi everyone. Hi Luis. Hi Akanksha. So, just allow a couple of minutes because I can still see that parents are joining. Great. I think, yes, everybody is here now. I think the count is still increasing. Yes, I think we can start now. So I can see there are around 50 attendees in this webinar. Cool. Uh, So good evening, everybody. We are today having this webinar called as 11 plus exam parents workshop. So it's a joint collaboration with Pi Academy and the SchoolUniGuide. The aim of this workshop is to provide an interactive hands-on session with the top 11 plus exam tutors. So our tutor team is also here. And in this workshop, we are walking all the parents through a lot of questions which are commonly asked in 11 plus exam. So coming to the workshop outline, my name is Preeti. I'm the founder of SchoolUniGuide as well as Spy Academy. I have more than 25 years of experience. I'm coming from engineering and more tech background. We are working in the 11 plus exam domain more than 10 years now. My colleague Louise, she is 11 plus exam English expert tutor. She is with me more than 9 years. Akanksha, she is our verbal reasoning tutor, and Harsh, she is maths and non-verbal reasoning tutor. Moving on, Urvashi. Yeah. So, as I said, the objective of this workshop, I will give you a quick outline how this workshop is organized and what is the objective of this workshop, what are the main takeaways through this workshop. So, this is a quite different workshop which we normally host in a sense that the aim of this workshop is to provide hands-on practice on all four subjects to the parents. And this is very interesting because normally we run these kind of sessions in terms of giving more information, but not as such where parents are actually going to involve in solving the questions. So that's why it is a quite different workshop. Hope you will all enjoy this and you can work with our expert tutors who are specifically tutoring for 11 plus exam. Then in the once these four subjects are covered by our expert tutor, I will be running you through a lot of preparation tips and the strategies. Also, we will guide you how you can choose the right tutor and how you can select the best school. So basically, as our company name suggests, SchoolUniGuide, it's properly a guidance platform where we are guiding all the parents through a lot of exams, not just 11 plus exam, though our webinar workshop is completely devoted right now for the 11 plus exam, but we do provide a lot of guidance for 11 plus exam, 13 plus GCSE, also the university, and a lot of other stuff. I will walk you through time to time through this entire slide. So going forward, Urvashi. What is the 11 plus exam? I'm pretty sure everybody sitting in this workshop knows 11 plus exam. So I'm not going to talk much about it. The 11 plus exam is used by both grammar and independent school throughout the UK as a part of their selective admission process for entry into year 7. School types, there are two main school types, grammar school and independent school. And if we look at the exam, the grammar school exam is starting in September 2025, right, next year. And independent school exams, they are normally conducted once the child started year 6 in the month of November or December in the same year. So pretty much we are looking at January 2026. Moving on, Urvashi. Okay, so now what are the common 11 plus exam boards? Many of the parents are already aware about this, but I would like to give you some statistical data, which is GL, which is Granda Learning. There are around 144 schools who are running GL exams, CSSE, which constitutes to 88%. CSSE Consortium for Selective Schools in Essex, there are around 10 schools. 6%. SET, Selective Eligibility Test, 6 schools, it means 3%. And FSCE, Further Stories Community Enterprise, and it's about 1%. Independent school, either they follow ICB board or they conduct their own exams. And in some of the independent schools nowadays, they are also having a select CEM test, or sometimes they also have the GL test. So basically here we advise parents close to the exam dates, please check the official school website to make sure that you are exactly considering the exam board which is given by the school on their official website. Moving on. So in 11 plus exam, there is a application process such as registration process. If you are looking for the grammar schools, then you may need to register yourself through school website or maybe through the local authority or the school. Then they also have some important documents, application deadlines to consider. And what we suggest is most importantly that parents must attend the open days. The reason being that is when you are actually going and seeing the school, you will take a call whether that particular school is suitable for your child based on the child's likes and dislikes. Moving on. So here we go. And now from this point onwards, I'm going to involve my tutors who will be talking in much detail about every subject, giving you a very brief introduction about how the questions look like, what kind of the tips the parents can use it to teach their child. So here you can see 11 plus tests include all or some of the following 4 subjects, which is English, maths, VR, verbal reasoning, and non-verbal reasoning. Most of the schools, they do
many years working with loads of students preparing for their 11 plus. So if there are questions about English, whether it's comprehension, creative writing, please do ask later on. Now, a bit about me. I have worked for a long time with many students, and I'm highly qualified in English. I've got a BA and my MA in English, so this is an area that I'm really passionate and really involved in. I've worked with students from grammar schools and independent schools and all the different boards that you can imagine, all those keyboards there. Are always covered in the sessions that I run. So I want to talk with you today a little bit about how to familiarize yourself with the kind of questions that students get for English. Because sometimes parents are, they have their child in tutoring, but they might not necessarily know exactly the process that you go through when you're actually learning how to do the different questions. So what we've done is we've gathered some questions together today from a sample paper, which is in a sort of GL style, which is obviously the most common board. And I'm going to basically talk you through how I would teach a child to approach these questions. And then I'll go through some tips at the end for how to make sure that you're preparing really effectively for comprehension for English. So the extract that we're going to have a look at today, I'm not going to read the whole extract, but just to give you an idea, it comes from Wind in the Willows, which is classic English novel by Kenneth Grahame. Now, I'll talk more about this later, but it's a really good idea to make sure that your child is reading these classic novels because they're much more challenging in terms of vocabulary. They're much more engaging in terms of like actually getting them to learn and expand their reading ability rather than books that are really just too easy. So make sure that your child is familiar with this level of text because you don't want them to get into the exam and not be able to understand what's going on. So in the extract that you would have read, this is an extract in which we have the character called Mole. In Wind in the Willows, they're all animals, all the characters. And he is, as you can see from the summary, I'll just briefly read this. It says, Mole longs to meet Badger, but Ratty says that Badger does not like people calling on him and he will turn up soon. Mole waits for months and there's no sign of him, so eventually he sets out through the wildwood to find him. So it's an extract in which this character, the mole, is exploring the woods for the first time, and obviously he's an underground creature, so the woods are rather startling to him. And typically the extracts will be about a page and a half. So that's the first page, and then it goes on to a second page as well. This is the sort of length you can imagine that your child will get. So I'm going to work through a few different questions. For each one, we're going to have a different style of comprehension question, like a different skill. And I'll show you some little ways to approach these different questions. Okay, so there's the first question here, number one. This is a vocabulary question, very common in English papers, particularly in the comprehension section. And so it'll either be something like what's a synonym for a word in the text, or it might say what's an antonym. So just make sure that your child is aware of the difference and they know what they're actually looking for. So this question says, number one, what is a synonym for shrill? And what you would need to do in this case is find where that word appears. So that is one main challenge when you get given a word in the text that you need to define. Children need to make sure that they actually go and look for that word. Common mistake is that students just don't bother going back and finding where that word appeared. So go back and find it. Now, because I know this text, I know that it appears at the beginning of paragraph 8, it says very faint and shrill it was. Now, if you just read that by itself, that wouldn't really make much sense because what is it? So make sure that you go back, you read a little bit of the text before the relevant part to give you the context. So in paragraph 7, it says, then the whistling began. So I know that the word shrill is being used to describe a whistle. So therefore, I know what a whistle sounds like. I can use the options and I can eliminate to find the one that matches up the most closely. So I've got loud, horrible, grating, terrifying, high-pitched. Now, as you can probably tell, the answer would be E because that is the word that best describes a whistling sound. Shrill means very high-pitched and squeaky. So there would be my answer. In fact, I can just write that in here. So remember, vocabulary, make sure that your child is going back to the text and looking at how it was used rather than just relying on their knowledge, because it might not necessarily be that the word is being used in the context that they are thinking of. Make sure that they go back and find it. Okay, here's question 2. This is a slightly different skill. This is a close reading style question, which basically means that you are looking for the details of the text, the specific details, particularly to do with the order of events that take place in the passage. So this is what the question says. What makes Mole stumble when he first enters the wood? And then you have different options. And basically you're looking for the first thing that makes him actually stumble. Twigs, funguses, logs, branches, the dark. And I know from this question, it says when he first enters the wood. So that gives me a bit of a clue that it's going to be at the start of the text, or at least early on. And I can look back at the very beginning of the text, paragraph 1. There was nothing to alarm him at first entry. Twigs crackled under his feet, logs tripped him, funguses on stumps resembled caricatures and startled him. for the moment by their likeness to something familiar and far away. So there I've already got some listing of different things that were mentioned in my options, but which one actually made him fall? The logs. It says logs tripped him. Twigs are mentioned first, but that's not what the question was asking us for. So we know that we go back to the options and we find that it's C. So for a question like that, make sure that your child knows exactly what they're looking for. The key word here is stumble. So you're looking for some kind of synonym, a similar word with a similar meaning, and find the one that matches up. So that's close reading. Now here's another close reading question. This is a slightly nicer question because they tell you which paragraph to look in. Obviously, that's not always the case, but if you do get given a paragraph reference, students must use it. They often forget to use it, but it's there for your benefit. So it says, how does Mole feel about the whistling in paragraph 8? So I will look through the options, read them first, and then return back to the text. A, he wants to get away from it. B, he thinks it's worse than the faces. C, he wants to run towards it. D, he's terrified by it. E, he doesn't know what to do about it. So if I go back to that specific part of the text, it's describing here the whistling that we were talking about before. Very faint and shrill it was, and far behind him. When first he heard it, but somehow it made him hurry forward. Then very faint and shrill it sounded far ahead of him and made him want to hesitate and go back. So the whistling is making him want to basically run away from it, because it says in the text, it sounded far ahead, it made him hesitate, then it made him hurry forward. So by looking at those little clues in the text, we can identify that the answer is A. He wants to get away from it. So make sure that your child is, I often recommend that students actually underline the relevant part of the text that leads you directly to the answer. So that's with close reading, is always going to be a specific phrase that will confirm the answer most specifically. Okay, the next question here, this is question 4, this is an inference question. Inference, I'm sure that you know, but it's the kind of question where you have to look between the lines at what the implied meaning is. So it might necessarily be said explicitly, but you have to figure it out based on the clues. So the question is this: why is the burrow described as friendly? And this comes right at the end of the text. So if students have read it, they would know where the burrow is referred to. It's right at the end. It says, get out of this, you fool, get out. The mole heard him mutter as he swung round a stump and disappeared down a friendly burrow. So we know from the whole passage that Mole has been afraid of the woods. And so why would the burrow be friendly? What does that imply about going into the burrow? So if we look back to the options, A, the rabbit's friends are waiting for him there. B, the burrow is a safe place the rabbit can escape to. C, burrows are rabbits' homes. D, the rabbit is friends with Mole. E, the rabbit is inviting Mole into the burrow. So this part was describing the actions of the rabbit. It says, instead the animal almost brushed him as it dashed past, his face set and hard, his eyes staring, and then he escapes from the strangeness of the wood. So we know that it's a friendly place. It's a pleasant place. So the word that friendly implies that it's a safe and secure place that is an escape from the actual woods itself. So therefore, the answer would be B. So for an inference question, you do have to have a bit of practice. You have to think about, okay, the key word there is friendly. What does the word friendly indicate? Somewhere safe, somewhere warm, somewhere protective, somewhere familiar. So students can break down the meaning of the word to help them understand what it's telling us about the burrow. Okay, now a couple of slightly different questions now. For GL, the questions, they start with a comprehension section, and then there are some different sections. So you have a spelling section and a grammar section, and also a sort of spot the punctuation or capital letters kind of question. So this one comes from that section here, the spelling. These are obviously hopefully familiar, but all you need to do for these is you need to use your spelling knowledge to notice if there is a spelling mistake or not. And sometimes there is, and sometimes there isn't. So students have to be able to know those challenging words. So this is our example here. The sentence says, all the politicians assembled in the government building for the meeting. Now, government there, of course, is a common word that's often spelled wrong because it has that N in it, just like environment that, is kind of silent. So you have to know from your practice these challenging words that often come up, and you'll be able to spot that the answer there is C. If students don't know, if they don't know which word is the spelling mistake, they can eliminate, they can go through and make sure that the other sections, they're confident there's no spelling mistake here, which is the only one that I'm not sure about. It's a good way to narrow it down to find the option that is the one that has the spelling mistake. There are, for these kind of questions as well, there are N is an option, there's no spelling mistake, but students, in my experience, often choose N too much. You will find that they probably will give N the option a couple of times in the spelling section, but it's not going to appear really much more than 2. So if your child, if in practice, is noticing that they're saying N a lot, this is a good tip. If you're saying N too much, go back and check the ones where you've said N, because it's likely that some of them will actually have a spelling mistake in them. Now, here's another similar question to that. The sentence is this: although Ella loves her family support, she also values being independent. And this is a slightly tricky one because independent has that challenging ending ANT/ENT. So you can see that it's been misspelt with the ending there. So endings are a really good thing to be practicing, making sure that students know any rules to do with ENT, ANT, IOUS, TIOUS, CIOUS. Make sure that they're familiar with those different variations and that they know which words fall into each group. So that's spellings. Another thing that you must make sure that you're practicing for English. Okay, coming back to the comprehension, this next question is a grammar style question. And this is another very common type of question that appears in basically every paper. There will always be something about word types. So the question is this: what type of words are pattering and whistling? So students need to be able to identify parts of speech. They need to be able to look at a sentence and tell and basically label which word type each one is. They need to be able to notice determiners, nouns, adjectives, adverbs, verbs. They need to notice conjunctions, connectives. They should be able to break down a sentence into every different word type. So here, our options are adjectives, action transitive verbs, prepositions, descriptive words, and nouns. Now, what you must do for a question like this is you must go back and look at how the words were used. Because these words here, pattering and whistling, can actually have different functions depending on how they're used in the text. So if we go back, these words appeared, one at the end of the first page, then the whistling began, the whistling. And then in paragraph 9, then the pattering began. Now, students know this. Students know that the word the is a determiner. It's a definite article that only ever comes before a noun. They will instantly be able to get the answer because this word, the way that it's been used in this context, it's not a verb because it's being used as a noun. It's a thing. It's the pattering. So you must make sure that your child knows to go back and look. You don't want to get caught out by looking at a word by itself and not seeing how it was originally used. Because yes, these words could be used as verbs, but they're not being used as verbs specifically in this text. So word types, really important to be confident with that. Okay, this is another grammar style question, but this comes from the best group of words section of the GL paper. So a slightly easier question, this one. And what students need to do for these kind of questions is they need to identify which group of words best completes the sentence. So things that you need to know really well here are your subject and verb agreements, making sure that you know which verbs go with which type of subject, like plural subjects and plural verbs, singular and singular need to match up. So, and also, of course, tense. They need to be aware of which tense the original sentence was in and find the one that's also in the same tense. So this says here, the siblings were so bored that they, blank, if they should risk getting soaked. So we've got they were wondered. Well, were wondered doesn't make sense because you need the ing verb because it's a past progressive verb that's necessary here. The siblings were so bored that they wondering. Now that's missing the past tense were, so that's going to be wrong. They are wondering, well, that's in present tense. The rest of the sentence was in past tense, so we can eliminate that. That they were wondering, that's the best one so far. It's in past tense. It's the right type of verb with were, and it also fits with the past progressive. And then the siblings were so bored that they weren't wondering if they should risk getting soaked. Well, that wouldn't make sense here because we're talking about the reason that they are wondering about getting soaked is because they're bored. So they wouldn't do something if they wouldn't not do something if they were bored and trying to find something to do. So there you go. So for questions like that, process of elimination is your best friend. Make sure that you go through and identify the one that's in the right tense and it's the right subject-verb agreement for the sentence. So that one would be D. Okay, next question. This is, like I was mentioning before, this is the type of question where you have to identify punctuation and capital letter mistakes. They're combined into two. So it will be comprehension, in GL specifically, comprehension, spelling, punctuation and capital letters, and then best group of words. So here you have to identify the mistake that's been made. So if we read it out, not only had Sarah achieved full marks on all her exam results, she'd also, and then it goes on, it's usually the same passage but split into different questions. As you can see here, there's been a capital letter missed out of Sarah's name. So that is the mistake. And actually, even though that seems like an easy one, students often, in my experience, don't notice these things. So sometimes getting the basics really confident is a hugely important part that can really raise their score, rather than, obviously focusing on the more tricky things is important too, but making sure that the basics are really solid is going to benefit their score so much. So that's what a punctuation question can look like. I have another similar one here. Now I have just taken at the bottom here, this is just the question before it so that you can see the context. So this was part of a longer passage, but it said, something like this sentence was continued before, and it said, on Friday, the head teacher told the class, you will, and then it carries on here, you will all need to work harder to keep up. Sarah was mortified. She decided at once, and then that goes on to the next part of the text. Now, as you can see here, what's really important is that students recognize that the sentences are flowing through into the different questions. So you have to actually look back at the previous line to notice that speech had begun. There is a speech mark there, you will, and that carries on. The speech continues into this part of the sentence. You will all need to work harder to keep up. And there's a speech mark missing after the capital. So the answer would be B. So for these questions, just like with comprehension, like I was talking about with the synonym shrill, make sure that you are reading the question within its sequence. So whether or not that means going back to the previous question to make sure that it flows through correctly, or that's reading the sentence before and after to make sure that you've understood the meaning that the word's being used for, it's really going to help. It's a really, really useful, easy tip to make sure that you know what you're actually being asked. Okay, I've got a couple more questions and then we'll go through some tips. So 2 more comprehension questions to finish for English. So here is a literary techniques question. This is another thing that students need to be really confident with. What they need to know is basically what are the main literary techniques. They need to have a good knowledge of all the key ones, simile, metaphor, hyperbole, rhetorical question, onomatopoeia, etc. And they also need to be able to think about why they are used. So here's a question here. The sentence says, 3 sentences, then the pattering began, then the whistling began, then the faces began, those are the examples from the text, are written on their own in the story in single-line paragraphs. So this is sort of about structure, but it is to do with the way that the writer is using different writing techniques to create effect. And so you need to know why writers use single-line short paragraphs. What is the purpose of doing that? Here are the options. A, it adds tension and shows that these are important moments. B, it breaks up the story a bit. C, it shows that there is one monster responsible for all 3 things. D, it provides contrast with the rest of the story. E, it shows how frightened Mole is. Now, you can probably see that there is really only one sort of compelling interpretation for why those short sentences have been used. If you can go back and look at how they're used, they stand alone. Then the faces began. Then the whistling began. It's a single sentence, short and dramatic. It creates tension by being by itself. Then the pattering began. So students need to know this. They need to know that by using short sentences, not only does it slow down the pace of the story, it also makes that sentence stand out. It makes it a dramatic moment, almost like a jump scare or a loud burst of music in a film. That's what's the sort of the literary equivalent with a short sentence. So students should have knowledge of what the most common reasons why writers do make certain choices. So for short sentences, dramatic single line paragraphs, they are there to create tension and create drama and bring our attention to those moments. So obviously the answer there would be A. And the final question for comprehension that I'll just talk you through now is a complex language question. This is another style of question that often comes up. This is similar to vocabulary, but it's not just one single word. They'll give you like a slightly obscure phrase from the text, and you need to be able to understand what it means. So the question is this: what is the best definition for the phrase braced himself up? Now, some students might already know what this means. Brace yourself being quite a common phrase. So let's have a look and see how this phrase was used. I'm just going to find it in the text. It's here in paragraph 5. This is something that students, again, need to be able to do. When something has been quoted in the text, they need to be able to quickly skim the text and find it. So good practice. Look for this phrase in the text. Look for this word in the text. Get them to practice that, and their skim reading will really improve with speed. So as you can see, it appears in paragraph 5. It says here that, I'll just read the sentence before, good to get into that practice. He passed another hole and another and another, and then, yes, no, yes, certainly, a little narrow face with hard eyes had flashed up for an instant from a hole and was gone. So this is something that's frightening Mole. He hesitated, braced himself up for an effort, and strode on. Now we know that it tells us that he's going to make an effort, and he's also striding onwards. He's being brave, so he's doing something that is requiring some level of courage. And so therefore, by using that context, I can conclude, if I come back to the question, that the answer is going to be E. I mean, these are the options. A, it means Mole tries to shut himself off from the evil faces, which he's not really doing. He's just powering through, he's just carrying on, going through the woods, even though the faces are there. It means Mole tells himself that the faces aren't real. Well, there's no evidence for that. He's not convincing himself that they're not real. They are there. He's just trying to be brave. C, it means that Mole wraps himself up in protective clothing. Well, first of all, he's an animal, so he's obviously not wearing any clothing, but also there's no reference to clothing. He's not tying up his shoelaces. Again, he's not an animal. He's not going to be wearing shoes. And there's no reference to that. And lastly, the answer must be E. It means that Mole is trying to strengthen himself for the journey ahead, as we saw from the context of making an effort and striding onwards bravely. So the answer is E. So those are the 12 questions that I have, and I hope that that's given you some idea of this process of like looking at the question, returning back to the text, going through the evidence that you have, reading the sentence before and after to give yourself the context, and making sure that you are going through each option to eliminate those that cannot be the answer. So just before I pass over to our next tutor, just go through a few quick tips for comprehension in general. One thing, this might seem like a silly thing to suggest or a silly thing to remind, but it's important that students make sure that they're actually answering putting the right answer in the right box. Again, something that they can practice at home, maybe with an example answer sheet, just so that they're familiar with how to actually answer the questions. So that's one thing to be aware of. I've said this already, but this is something that students must get into the habit of. Refer back to the text when you are doing comprehension. This is something that students, I think, they rely too much on their memory and they expect themselves just to know exactly what the text said from the first time they read it. It's never worth doing that. Always go back to the text, even if you've not got a specific line reference, still go back and find where it was used. When you're at home, you can read paragraphs out loud to further your understanding and to make sure that it's sinking in more. Obviously, you can't do this in the exam, but you can do it at home while you're practicing. Process of elimination is really, really useful for multiple choice questions, especially if you're unsure of what the answer is initially. Go through and eliminate the answers that either are irrelevant, that sound silly, that are not mentioned in the text. It's a really useful way to answer questions you're not sure about. Regular reading is really important. It's probably goes without saying, but making sure that they're reading regularly is such an important way for them to be able to approach text quickly and easily. I mean, we would suggest reading a variety of classic books and more challenging ones. I mean, we do have a reading club with Pi Academy in which students can get engaged with this. And as off the back of that, whenever they're doing their reading, they can be building up vocabulary banks or vocabulary collections that they can refer back to. Not only will this help them with their understanding, but it will also help them with creative writing as well, building up their vocabulary for that. So I think that's really all I have time for. I do have some reading recommendations here, but I will send these through to parents who have taken part in the webinar, so you can have a look at those. But I think that is all from me for now. So I'm going to hand over to Harsh now to talk about maths. So over to you.
Well, first of all, thank you, Louis, for that wonderful breakdown of 11 plus English examination. All that key tips, key exam details, I'm sure that attendees present over here would really be appreciating. And good evening, everyone. Welcome to our 11 plus exam parents workshop. It's an interactive hands-on session with our top 11 plus exam tutors. Okay. So now let us focus our session towards math side of the 11 plus journey. Before that, let me introduce myself to you guys. I'm Harsh, a BTech MEMS engineer, and I have tutored school students for across grammar and independent schools, all the 11 plus kids, aspirants, looking to get entered into the top 11 plus schools, covering different exam boards like GL, CEM, CSSE, SET, and also independent board schools. I have over 10 plus years of experience, and with more than 3,000 plus hours of tutoring, it's a pride moment for me to come up and say that we have a success rate of over 95%. So to begin discussing about maths, well, we got a lot of topics to cover up in maths. Now, it all the way starts right from the numbers. Okay, so let me just walk you guys through our main Pi Academy page, where you can find one of the very useful resources for 11 plus, particularly in maths. So if you click over here, what we have is 11 plus topic wise questions. As I have already mentioned, maths comes up with a lot of topics. It starts from understanding numbers, factors, multiples. Yeah. Now within numbers itself, if you see the thing on the right, we got odd numbers, counting, reading and writing numbers, of course, addition, subtraction, word problems, multi-level word problems. And in the brackets, if you can see, this is the count of total amount of questions which we have. Now, if we scroll down, we could also see numerous questions like speed, distance, and time, profit and loss, probability, algebra. Now, we got lots of topics to cover within even the main topics. So what we have done over here is you can find the collection of all the past paper resources available right from the past 15 years up till now. The 11 plus exams conducted by various different schools, the exam papers are collected. We have categorized the questions into the topics, and we have ended up gathering a collection of past paper questions based on topic-wise tag. So if a student wants to come up and practice any specific topic, they can do so. If they want to start with a very good structured journey of practicing for 11 plus, right from the very basics, this is one of the best resources to ever come up across with. Now, why do we need such resource anyway? Well, just to give you a slighter idea, if we talk about algebra, in 11 plus exams, algebra begins with understanding very simple BIDMAS operations, understanding what is -2 plus 3. Students needs to be familiarize themselves with sign conventions, and it goes all the way to solving equations or then algebra dependent word problems, including tougher simultaneous equations questions, which are very oftenly repeated or covered in 11 plus exams. Now, we can understand that if you're able to solve BIDMAS, your child would be able to solve equations. Only if your child is able to solve equations, he can end up solving word problems. And only if a child is able to solve word problems, he can move ahead and solve algebra-dependent simultaneous equation problem, which is a very must question to have in any of the 11 plus exam across any of the board. So again, lots of topics, lots of prerequisites for each topic. It's tough, it's challenging, but following the structured way, it's a very good and easy to achieve the aim. So let's see what are the different structures, what are the type of preparation needed, how the questions are, and let's just go into a deeper maths insights and understand the requirement of how your child needs to be prepared or how you would be helping up your child to prepare. Now, let us see the very first question which you can see on the screen. Well, it's from odd, even, and prime numbers. Again, all of these questions over here are actual past paper questions, which so means this question has already been asked by some of the 11 plus grammar or independent school in their 11 plus exams. Just to get an actual exam feel, we will be discussing this question. Now, the topic appears to be pretty simple and straightforward, right? Odd, even numbers, prime numbers. It's obvious if a child is preparing for 11 plus, he must know what do we mean by even, what do he mean by prime numbers or odd numbers. Again, this is a very easy level question which asks, using the number cards, fill in following table. Okay, so we have given simple number cards. But if you look at the table over here, it's not an ordinary table with just rows and column. Instead, it has multiple rows and multiple columns. And even within each row and each column, if you can see, what could be the number best suiting over here? This number should be an even number and a factor of 10. So, your child needs to be able to merge up the two concepts. One is the even number. He should know what an even number is. He should also understand what are factors. Alongside, he should also know what a prime number is. That's the only possible way your child would be able to answer this pretty simple question in an easy way. Now, this is surely not what you can attempt or what you can get answered accurately in first attempt. It needs a consistent practice. For example, over here, if you're interested in finding an even number, which is a factor of 10, the only option over here is 10, which is a factor. Or let's say I'm interested in finding a factor of 18, which is also a prime number. For this, I need to know how to find the factors. Well, there are different methods. One of the methods which we very occasionally teach to the kids, very simple and easy method, is this ladder method, where students just start by dividing with the prime factors. Let's say the prime numbers are 2, 3, 5. Start with 2. It's divisible by 9. It's no more divisible by 2 now, right? So let's move to the next number, 3. This is 3. That's it. We got 1. So basically 18, you can write it down as times 2, 3 times 3. So these are basically the factors. Now 2 times 3 is 6. And here we also have 3 as well. But we are asked the prime factor of 18. So the only prime factor of 18 present in the options is either 2 or either 3. So this can be 2 or 3. Again, after going through all this hustle, it's still not confirmed if it's either 2 or either 3. Yeah, because it can be either of the both. That means, again, this question clearly requires a good structured method of solving. And your child is expected to solve this question within 1 minute and 30 seconds at max. So combining multiple concepts, going through multiple eliminations within each box in the table, he should be able to solve the question correctly. Surely it requires a lot of practice, but still considered an easy level problem. Okay. So here at this point, we can just get an idea of the level of difficulty or the level of challenge which your child can be facing up in the 11+ exam, especially in maths. Let us move on to the second question. Again, one of the pretty simple questions. Considered a medium level question. Topic is slicing and painting of cubes. But throughout my 10 years of experience, I have realized that majority of the parents are even unaware that this topic is covered in the 11+ exam. So half of the students are not even prepared. Again, this question carries a significant 4 to 5 marks. The question says, a cube of side 3 centimeter, it's painted red. It's then cut into a set of cubes of side 1 centimeter. Basically, a bigger cube is being chopped down into smaller cubes of 1 centimeter. And the question is asking to find how many 1 centimeter cubes would be there with all the 3 sides red, 2 sides red, 1 side red, and no side red. Now imagine coloring this square entirely. Okay. And firstly, this bigger cube has lots of small cubes in it, right? And within these small cubes, you are asked how many small cubes are there with 3 faces painted or 3 sides red. All you need to observe is all the cubes at these corners. Take a look at the cube at this corner. This side is also painted. So all the cubes at the corners would have 3 faces painted. And basically a bigger cube has 8 corners. So the answer is simply 8. All the cubes at the corners will have 3 faces painted. But yes, you need to have that idea that the cube has 8 corners. And you need to connect that idea with this question in order to answer. The connection goes like this. Corners, there are 8 corners in a cube. And according to this question, if you paint, all the cubes at the corners would only have all the 3 faces painted. That means there are 8 small cubes, 1 at each corner with 3 sides painted. Likewise, for 2 sides, well, again, if you notice, this one in the middle, it will have 2 sides painted, correct? This one over here in the middle as well will have 2 sides. So would be this one over here. So would be this one over here. Yeah. But how to count the total number of such cubes? Looking at the 3D image given in 2D, we can only see some part of the diagram. The rest part is hidden. Again, we also require one more logic over here. The logic is, suppose if we draw an edge, you realize that along each line, you got 1 cube with 2 sides painted. So along each edge, there is one cube with 2 sides painted. What's the logic? How many edges does the overall cube have usually? 12 edges. So to across 12 edges, minutes. But this problem also had a lot of different logic. This problem requires a very detailed clarity of 3D shapes. Then the problem solving skills required to connect the 3D shapes concept into the required question. Again, one of the very important skills to have to be successful for 11 plus exams. Again, let us go through the different questions now. This is a very simple pie chart based problem. Again, one of the questions from the independent school. Yeah, this is the independent school style question from the topic pie chart, which asks that the bag has red, white, and black counters. And there is this pie chart which shows information about the counters in the bag. They say that there are 48 counters and how many counters are black is asked. Now, when you talk about pie chart is basically sections, right? So in this chart, you have some of the white section, some of the red section, and some of the black section. Sections is nothing but fraction, we can say. But sometimes these sections are also represented by angles like this, 120 degrees as shown over here. Or in many questions, you might also see percentages shown in pie chart. Also decimals in the pie chart. Because sections in the pie chart can be represented by fractions, percentages, decimals, and angles. So for a student to be very perfect in pie charts or to solve the question with accuracy in pie charts, he must be very proficient in dealing with operations of fractions, angles, percentages, decimals, how to multiply. And then, of course, the one main important thing is mental calculations. Not something which a student can achieve over a period of night, but surely with continuous and dedicated practice and with good support, delivered definitely as required from parents, student can surely achieve this skill sets. Okay. Now, there are not only these type of questions where you require multi-concepts or some of the question types where parents are unaware of. There are many familiar question types where students are bound to make a lot of silly errors. Okay. As a parent, the first main concern is how your child avoids these basic silly errors, which would ensure he is not losing the marks for the topics he is actually good at. Let us see some of those topics. This is area and perimeter. Now, you can see this square. I can also see the triangle over here. The question goes like this. A square sheet of paper, it's been folded along one of its length. Then a triangular section has been removed. What's the area of remaining square section? So basically, from a square, a triangular area is removed. So my first instinct would be, as a student, to find the area of the square, that is 10 times 10, 100, but it's not 100, it's centimeter square. Again, units, one of the major areas where students end up losing marks just because of not writing the units or mentioning incorrect units. Okay? So we need to be very careful over there while preparing our child to be always focused on correct units. Talking about the question, the square is 100. You got a triangle. What's the area of this triangle? It's half times base times height, basically, a simple formula. Yeah. So you would have half times 2 times 5, again 5 centimeters square. So what's the area of remaining square section? It must be 95. Yeah. I would have marked the answer as 95 centimeters square. But I would be totally wrong. It's because of not reading the question carefully and trusting on the instinct of directly solving the answer just by looking at the figures. That is one of the major errors students make in very simple topics like this. The issue here is this rectangular, this square sheet of paper, when you fold it and when you try to cut along the triangular section, basically, you are not just cutting around one triangular piece, but when you cut it after folding, you have two layers of sheet, ending up resulting in two triangles. So basically, you are removing not just one triangle, but two triangles with area 5 centimeters square. Hence, you are removing an area of 10 centimeters square. When you subtract, the correct answer would be 90 centimeters square. Again, one of the medium level problem must be solved under 1 minute 30 seconds. But yes, sometimes in the excitement, child can end up just looking at the figure, maybe just reading out the last line and end up doing the incorrect workout. Yeah. So that's where we can be a pretty more careful. Again, now let us see some of the hard level cases. I'm sure when we talk about the hard level cases, the algebra, one of the most daunting and the scariest topics, comes up. But again, before even talking about this question, let me inform you guys that I have taught various different students, and the people who were, or the students who were unable to solve a pretty simple BIDMAS problem after a matter of 4 to 5 classes with a very thorough practice, ended up solving simultaneous equations and the word problems in algebra very easy. So it's just the lack of structured and oriented practice, covering up the prerequisites first before moving to the questions. In this case, this is actually an algebra-dependent age problem. The question appears to be a hard level and it's actually tricky. Kelly is 7 years younger than Ryan. 10 years ago, Ryan was 2 times as old as Kelly. Find out present ages of Kelly and Ryan. Well, the question appears like a puzzle. It has got a lot of information which is not given. They're talking about these two people, Kelly and Ryan. Okay. Information is not given. Yeah. Again, this is a normal CSSE style exam question. Okay. In this, what we can do over here, or what is required mathematically is, there are 3 things. First is, your child should be able to understand that it's an algebra dependent problem. What does that mean? That means you need to use these comparisons, 2 times as old, 7 years younger, and the information to form an equation and then solve it. But this sounds a bit unnatural or a bit tricky. But it can be done in a very simple way if we just very simply break it down like this. The first thing your child needs to do is assign variable to the unknown. What do we mean by this? Assigning variable, or what is the unknown firstly? When you see in this question, you got 2 unknowns. You don't know what is Kelly's age. You don't know what is Ryan's age. But if you assume Kelly's age as X, how old would be Ryan? We don't know, right? How can we find the age of Ryan? For that, we need to use comparisons in question to form equation. What are these comparisons basically? Well, Kelly is 7 years younger than Ryan. Okay, 7 years younger means if Kelly is X, Ryan is older than Kelly by 7 years, correct? So 7 years more than Kelly. That is x plus 7 simply. Yeah. Now, the ability to write this down as an expression. This again comes through practice, not a first attempt thing. Moving on. Now, you got one more information. You have expression for Kelly and Ryan, but you need a connecting equation. So you use left information of question to form equation. How? What's the information left? 10 years ago, Ryan was 2 times as old as Kelly, correct? Firstly, we know Kelly and Ryan's current age. What will happen 10 years ago? Well, Kelly would be x minus 10 years, right? So would be Ryan, x plus 7 minus 10. What is this? X minus 3. Now, you just have expressions for ages of Kelly and Ryan 10 years ago. But what do they say? Ryan was 2 times as old as Kelly. That means Ryan's age is 2 times Kelly. This is the equation you need to find. That's the part C. Now, we can surely put the value of Ryan's age 10 years ago, x minus 3. This is 2 times x minus 10. All you need to do now is just solve and get the value of x. That will be the Kelly's age. Yeah, and so will be the Ryan's age. Again, the ability to change or convert the word problem into math equation and get the final answer. Now, this entire step involves a lot of minute pre-processing, understanding and focusing on each minute detail. Yeah. This is the proper way to teach a child how to solve an algebra-dependent age problem. And this is the only way your child is going to be comfortable in such questions. Again, surely a hard level question, but must be solved under 2 minutes. Now, let us see the last one from maths, one of the pretty important ones. Again, this one is taken from the GL examination board. The topic is simultaneous equations, one of the toughest ones. Yeah. Again, appears to be tough, but once the process is practiced, it appears pretty simple. Yeah. Again, is there any more way looking at the multiple choice options to make it look more easier? Of course it is, right? That's what we have learned and delivered from our experience. The ability to provide tips and tricks across different topics to get it solved quickly. Like in this case, in the question, in a farm, there are some chickens, some horses. In all, there are 30 animals, 86 legs. How many of each animal are there? Well, basically, what they're trying to tell is, you got a hen. How many legs does the hen have? 2. Or the chicken has 2. And the horse, this is for chicken. And for the horse, it has 4 legs. Correct? But again, since it's a simultaneous equation problem, we need to write down the equations. Yeah. How? Well, you don't know what are chickens, you don't know what are horses. So as our first step is assign the variable. So what we're going to do? Let's take chicken as x, horses as y. So number of chickens is x, number of horses is y. Total number of animals is x plus y. What's that? 30. I got to my first equation. Now, this is 86 is the number of legs. Okay. So, one chicken has 2 legs. X number of chickens would have x times 2. That is 2x number of legs. Horses would have y times 4 as each horse has 4 legs. So 4y. Now you're going to get another equation. 2x plus 4y is 86. Now, you as per the concept, you are supposed to solve the entire question. Yeah. solve the simultaneous equation. Again, that requires some different process. But since you already have the options, and as our tutor Louis also explained the importance of eliminating options, all you can do is just put the value of x as 12, y as 18 and check if it matches. Well, this is first option is 12 chickens, 18 horses. 12 plus 18 is 30. So let's use the second equation as well. 2 times 12 plus 4 times 18. 2 times 12 is 24. 18 times 4 is 72. Well, that's surely not 86, correct? So first option can be eliminated. Second option, 15 plus 15 is 30. But 2 times 15 is 30 and 4 times 15 is 60. 60 plus 30 is 80, not 86. Eliminated. Let's see the third one. 17 plus 13, it's 30, correct. What is 2 times 17? This is 34. And 4 times 13, this is how much? 52. And what is 52 plus 34? That is surely 86. That means this option is correct. So we don't need to go over any extra hustle of solving the simultaneous equations and spending extra minute. Yeah. So your option is, correct option is option C. Well, this question, well, you might assume you have enough of 2 minutes to solve the question. Yep. So again, think of it. Breaking down the problem into equations, solving it and all overall. It's a long process, but still to be able to do in 2 minutes requires a good practice. And that is what is the requirement if you want to keep up with the challenge of 11 plus. But there is one more thing I have noticed throughout our experiences. Students end up marking incorrect answers, especially for this GL examination. When it's multiple choice, the answer sheet looks like this. For question number 6, the answer is C, but your child sometimes might mark question number 7 answer as C. Or your child sometimes can mark question number 6 answer as D instead of C. Because he might end up marking a lot of answers together or after solving each question. There are chances that your child might make errors across both the cases. So again, this also needs to be focused. Your child can surely give a lot of mock tests, practice, a lot of examination type environment, so that he could get very familiar with the time management, the tips, tricks, techniques to be used up to avoid this type of errors. So this was all about the maths part.
Sorry to interrupt you, but you have to quickly run through. We are running out of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So talking about the preparation tips and planning, start early, daily routine, practice the daily timetable, read books every day, surely take up mental maths tests. Then consistent practice surely is needed. Maybe, allocate 1 hour on weekdays and 2-3 hours on weekends. That's good enough. Again, staying within the catchment area always helps up if you are aiming for the desired school. At the end, practice a lot of past papers, attempt a lot of mock exams to ensure your child is very well prepared for your coming 11 plus exam. So that was it from the maths end. I hope the information would really help you in your future to turn up the preparation for your child. Now, I would like to invite our VR specialist tutor, Akansha, to share her tips and details about verbal reasoning questions and paper. Yeah.
Thank you, Harsh. And welcome everyone to the workshop. I'm Akanksha and I'll be walking you through the VR reasoning part of the workshop. So basically, verbal reasoning, although it is not part of the UK national curriculum, it is an extremely important skill that every student should pick up. And most grammar school and even independent school entrance examinations, such as the GL assessment exams, CAT4, ISCB, they all require you to be very good at verbal reasoning. So a little about me, I'm Akanksha. I'm a 11 plus VR tutor, and I've been tutoring students for the last 5+ years with over 1,000 plus hours of experience. And I've done my BTech and MBA, and as part of my courses and curriculum as well, I have been exposed to verbal reasoning questions, and we have a very proud success rate of 95%. Now, coming to the topics within verbal reasoning, the main topics are these: codes, making words, word meanings, closed passage, closed sentences, jumbled up sentences, missing letters, missing words, superfluous words. These mostly come under VR English, and under VR Maths, we have letters for numbers, number series and sequences, complete the sum, and related number type of questions. So if you are interested in figuring out which topics come under verbal reasoning, you can proceed to Pi Academy, and you can, as you can see on piacademy.co.uk, we have the 11 plus papers. And when you hover on the 11 plus papers, you would be able to see the verbal reasoning practice paper. So here, as I clicked on the verbal reasoning practice paper, all the practice papers have opened up for me. And when I scroll down, I can see the various topics. So here you can see VR codes. We have around 15 practice papers in that. In VR making words, we have 10 practice papers. VR Maths, as you can see, word meaning, closed passage, jumbled up sentences, and the rest. Now, coming to the workshop. So I will be walking you through a couple of questions, specifically pointing out areas where students should be careful. So for example, here's a question under the topic codes. It goes as follows. There are 4 words and 3 codes given below. Each code matches one of the words, but they are not written in the same order. So in a question such as this one, you can see there's a lot of information given in the question that the student needs to remember. So first is that they are not written in the same order. And then one of the words does not have a code. This is also a very important part of the question. So work out the correct code for each word and then answer the question that follows. Circle the correct answer from the choices given below each question. So using the information which is given, we can understand that one of these words does not have a corresponding code. And at the same time, the codes are not matching with the words which are given because it's not written in the same order. So in order to solve these questions, what you need to do is look at a pattern. So here you can see we have the letter E repeating on the 2 words tail and sight. And that is something you also see here with the letter 7. So most probably these 2 words would be corresponding to these 2 codes given. At the same time, you can see the same happening with the letter T. So T here comes in the first position, and here it comes in the 3rd position. Similarly, over here as well, you can see the number 3 comes in the 1st position, and the number 3 comes here in the 3rd position. So this way, we would be able to decipher that the code for the letter T is 3. And from this particular information itself, we can directly solve the question. So here you can see it says, what does 1, 2, 4, 3 mean with 3 at the end? So the correct answer should have the letter T at the end of it. And there's only one option for that, which is SILT, SILT. So what this basically tells us is that to solve this question, you don't need to know exactly what is the code for S, I, and L. If you just know the code for T, you would be able to solve the question very quickly. Now coming to another question. So here you can see if the code for true is PXMQ, what is the code for Mars? So in the exam, the student will be presented with a question of this sort. And what they need to do is they need to use the alphabet position value table. So they need to just quickly write down A to Z and the numbers that correspond to these alphabets, because this will help them solve the question really quickly rather than trying to recall which letter stands on which position of the alphabet. So for example, here you can see that it is mentioned that the code for true is PXMQ. And what this question wants us to do is to figure out how exactly are the alphabet positions of these 2 words corresponding. So if you look at this grid, you can figure out that the letter for T, the position of T is 20. Similarly, for R, it's 18, then 21 for U, and for E, it is 5. Then coming to PXMQ, you can see that the positions are 16 for P, 24 for X, for M it is 13, and for Q it is 17. Now you can see there is a relationship that is being drawn between these two. So 20 is nothing, 20 is becoming 16. So it's essentially moving back 4 positions. So if you move back from T, if you move back from T 4 positions, you would be getting the letter P, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's basically moving back 4 positions. Similarly, here you can see it is 18, which is moving up 6 positions. So this is the, so the student needs to remember whether the letter was moving back or up, and the best way to do that is to use a negative number when it's moving back and a positive number when it's moving forward. So again, you can see 21 and 13. So it is moving back 8 positions, and 5 and 17, it is moving forward 12 positions. So what this tells us is that the same sequence has to be applied for the code for Mars. So similarly, we would come up with the code for Mars. When we look at the grid, you can see that M is the 13th position, A is 1, R is 18, and S is 19. So the answer would basically be 4 positions moving backwards from 13. So that would become 9. Similarly, 6 positions moving forward from 1 would be 7. 8 positions back from 18 is 10. And now here is the tricky part. Moving 12 positions forward from 19. So 19 is S. And when you move 12 positions forward, you would essentially be coming to an end of the alphabet table. So this is where having a table makes sense, because then the student can figure out that once, out of 12, they have moved forward 7 positions, they have to take a reroute and they need to start moving from the letter A again. So this way, as you can see, when we move from 19 to 26, that becomes 7 positions back, and then 5 more positions in the same direction will bring us to E, so which is 5. So with this, we would be able to figure out that the corresponding letters for these words are basically I, G, J, and E, which is the answer to this question. So the reason why such questions can be tricky is because you do take some time in figuring out what is the correct code for the alphabets, and then you also need to check what is the relationship between the 2 codes. So that is why such questions can be difficult. Now coming to a different type of question under the topic making words. So in each of the following sentences, a 4-letter word is hidden between 2 words. The 2 words will always be next to each other. Find the pair of words and circle them from the options provided below. So in this question, the question that we are given, we have the word, the map landed on the floor after the wind had whisked it away. So as you can see, we have a lot of options. And the best way to go through this is to just head on start looking at the various words which are given and what combinations you can come up with. So DEDO does not make a word, EDON does not make a word, obviously. And as you can see, no other 4-letter word is coming about. But here, we can see that there is a 4-letter word called plan. So this way, the student has to be very quick in figuring out what sort of words could be possible from the intersection of these 2 words. And one must remember 2 things when we are solving questions of this sort, that you might be able to find words between 2 words in multiple options, but you should only select that option in which you're able to form a 4-letter word. And at the same time, you have to make sure that the words are consecutive and they're next to each other. So in order to confuse you, it could be possible that the options might have words which are not next to each other. So even if you're able to create words, because the 2 given words are not next to each other, that option would be the wrong one. Now coming to another question of making words, as you can see here, the word in capitals has had 3 consecutive letters removed. Without changing the order of these letters, they will make one correct spelled word. The sentence that you make must make sense. Circle the correct letter from the options given below. So here, the thing that really helps a child is to have a very strong vocabulary And at the same time, they need to figure out what this particular word could be by using the context which is given in the rest of the question. So the something was completed, the book now belonged to him. Now the fact that it starts with T would help the child figure out that the answer to this is transaction. So the correct answer would be RAN, T-R-A-N, action. So what would help the child is, again, two things: having strong vocabulary built in and also understanding the context from the question which is given. So similarly, he loved poetry, but nets were his favorite. So we all know that a similar literary piece of work is sonnets. So a child that is well read and has come across the word sonnets would be able to answer this question very quickly. At the same time here, we should avoid putting rubbish in dash, land F. So this would be a simpler question where the answer is a landfill. And here it's good if the child is aware that there are structures in the society such as landfills. Now coming to the next question, this is under VR Maths. So in these questions, letters stand for numbers, work out the answer to each sum, then find the correct corresponding letter and write it in the space given. So as you can see, it is a simple BIDMAS or BODMAS sort of a question, but they have used letters in place of words, and that is where it can get tricky because the student has to remember to plug in the correct value into the corresponding equation. So here, as we can see, we have the equation which is given here, and according to the rules of BIDMAS, we are first supposed to take care of the brackets. The question doesn't have any brackets. Neither does it have indices, but it does have division. So C division divided by A is what we need to focus on first, which is 500 divided by 25, which gives us 20. So this section would be 20, followed by the plus symbols before and after. After having solved C divided by A, the student is supposed to solve A into B and D into E. So A multiplied by B is 25 into 4, which is 100. And D multiplied by E, 190 into 2 is 380. So with this, the student would be able to find the correct answer, which is 500. And these can be slightly tricky because it requires the student to plug in the right value into the letter. Now, another question of VR Maths. Find the number that continues the sequence in the most sensible way and write it in the space given below. So the reason why a question such as this is tricky is because, generally speaking, we assume that the relation between these numbers must be linear in some sort, meaning 105 must be related to 27, 27 must be related to 95, a linear way of relationship. But at the same time, many a times, what happens is that you are given a combination of sequences. So the moment you see numbers which are too far off from each other, you can see we have two series, one which are around hundreds, 90s, 80s, and another around 20s, 40s, and 60s. You need to take a step back and understand that it is possible that there are two different series inbuilt into the same question. So these tricks could be the reason why students could find these questions to be difficult. So here it becomes much more easy and clear to decipher that here you can see that 10 is being subtracted from each of the corresponding next sequence word letters. And similarly here 20 is being added. So 20 plus 27 is 47, 67, and then the next. So the right answer here would have been 75. Now coming to another sort of question, find the number that completes the final set of numbers in the same way as the first two sets. Write the answer in the space given below. So when we have questions of this sort, the best way to go through is to look at the basic maths operations. So by basic maths, we mean addition, subtraction, and multiplication, division. These are the basic operations. So over here, as you can see, 18 and 3. The first thing that the child should do while they're trying to understand how these numbers could be related is to start off with addition. This is a very simple example. As you can see, 18 plus 3 gives us 21. And then they have to look for a relation between the number that they've gotten and the number in the middle. So 21 divided by 3 is 7. Now, if we use the same logic in the next example, which is given, so 27 plus 81 gives us 108, and 108 divided by 3 gives us 36. So similarly, we would be able to find the answer to the question which is given. 16 plus 11 is 27, and 27 by 3 is 9. So this way, the child can solve the question, and they need to remember to use different sort of basic maths operations to figure out what the relationship can be. Now, coming to word meanings, find 2 words, one from each group, that are the most opposite in meaning. Mark both words by drawing a line beneath each one. So this is another very common question that is asked in verbal reasoning. As you can see here, we have on the left, we have the words engaging, rigorous, diverting. And on the right, we have the words monotonous, attractive, and unusual. So for a child that is well read, they would be easily able to figure out the meaning of monotonous. This is one thing that is very crucial in solving this particular question, which is having a very strong vocabulary, and that will help the child figure out the meanings of these words. So, for example, engaging is something that is very interesting, and monotonous is the opposite of it. So the right word would be engaging and monotonous. This would be the right answer. So for the next question, we can see there is merciless, trying, emotional, and we have humility, altruistic, and honest. So here again, the child can, if the child is aware of what altruistic means, it would be very easy for them to solve this question. So they can figure out the relationship as follows. They can look at the first word, which is merciless. They can think of what could be the opposite of merciless. So the opposite would be merciful. And then they would look at the options here and think of what makes sense the most. So humility and honest are not synonyms of merciful, but altruistic can be. At the same time, they should also just take a quick check at the other words which are given in case there is a more direct association. But as you can see here, trying, the opposite of trying is not trying or giving up. We do not see any synonyms of that, nor do we see any synonyms of emotional, which is not emotional or stoic. So it's important for the child to have a very strong vocabulary to be able to solve these questions. Coming to another sort of question, which is under the topic word meaning. A sunflower, an orchid, and a rose are all 50 centimeters tall when they are planted in a garden. Sunflower doubles its height in 2 years, orchid triples it in 4 years, rose doubles it in 6 years. If the statements are true, only one of the statements below. If the above statements are true, only one of the statements given below must be false or unsubstantiated. Which one is it? So generally, there are 2 approaches that students use to solve these questions. The head-on approach would be to look for what could be the rate at which these various flowers are growing on a yearly basis. So using the unitary method, students would be able to come up with the answer for this. So for example, for sunflower, if it is in 2 years, it is able to double its height, which is 2 times its height. So in 1 year, it would basically be 2 divided by 2. So yeah, 1x. Then coming to orchids, triples its height in 4 years. So the rate of growth in 1 year would be 3 divided by 4. Same with the rose. In 6 years, it is doubling its height. So in 1 year, it would be 2 by 6, which is basically 1 by 3. So this is a head-on way of calculating in order to figure out what the numbers could be and figure out whether the questions are, which option is right. But the easier way to do is to make sure that you first read all the options through, because right there you would be able to see clues using which you can eliminate certain options. So one has to be very careful at the same time that the question is asking which of these following must be false. All right. So when you start reading these options, you would see that the first one might not be very easy to decipher, that the rose grew slower than the sunflower, but faster than the orchid. So using this data itself, it's not possible for the child to immediately know whether this is the right option or not. But if they look at the other options, it gets easier. So here it says the sunflower is 1 meter tall after 2 years. That is something which is easy to decipher because it has been told that the plant is 50 centimeters tall and the sunflower doubles its height in 2 years. So one double of 50 centimeter is 100 centimeters, which is 1 meter. So with this, we know that this answer is correct. So this will not be the correct answer for this question because this sentence is true. So similarly, going for this option, the sunflower grows faster than the rose. As we can see that the rose doubles its height in 6 years, whereas the sunflower doubles it in 2 years, it does show that the rose is slower in doubling its height. So this way the student would know that this answer is also true. Then next one, orchid is 1.5 meters after 4 years. So similarly, how we calculated for sunflower, we can see that as it triples its height in 4 years, its height in 4 years would be 150 centimeters, which is 1.5 meters. So this is also true. And finally, coming to this option. So when we have two options where the same, so the last option is that the rose grew the slowest. This again is something you can very easily decipher because as you can see here, the rose is doubling it in 6 years, whereas the orchid is tripling it in 4 years. So the orchid is growing faster. The triple is more than double, and it is doing it in less number of years. So without having to actually calculate the value or the rate of growth per year, the student would be able to figure out that the rose is definitely slower than the orchid. And over here, we already figured out that the rose is slower than the sunflower. So this way you can quickly scan the options and figure out that these are true, which means this option would be false. And that would be the right answer to this question. Now coming to the last question.
Hold
Yes.
on this session now. Yeah, I think we are just running out of the time and we have got here few questions. So why don't we show all the parents where is our VR and NVR, the materials and the topic so that it will be easy for them to have a look. And Namrata, if you can send the link of the VR papers and NVR papers, then parents can have a look at that. So here we go. As you can see, we do have a lot of verbal reasoning papers, practice papers, and these are very beautifully structured as per the topic wise here. So you can see here we have the VR codes questions, as Akanksha has explained few of them already. So we will be sending you the link of all the VR papers and as well as the NVR papers. Akanksha, if you can open quickly the NVR as well. So here we go. So whatever you want to find out on the Pi Academy's website, you can find out under exam papers and 11 plus papers. And the most importantly, today you can use a coupon code, which is SUG30, where you can get 30% off across all the materials on the Pi Academy's website. We have sent you the VR link as well as the NVR link. And you can go on to our website, apply a coupon code SUG30. And now I will pass on. So Akanksha, let Urvashi share the screen and I will catch up with all the tips which are really, really important for the parents to understand it. So Urvashi, you can share your screen and we can run through all the very, very important tips, or you can say a lot of information which I would like to share. So the most important thing is the preparation tips and the planning tips, which every parent should be very careful about. First tip from my end, or we are working in this 11 plus exam journey more than 10 years now. So start early, have a daily routine. You must make sure that the child is consistently practicing for all the subjects which are required for your target school. Decide your residence. This is really important because most of the schools are having catchment areas, and hence it is very, very important you are deciding your residence. And it's not just about the grammar school, but it also about independent school, because if your residence is far away from the school, then logistic can be the problem. Another thing is which is related to the exams preparation. Practice papers, you need to start them early and attempt a lot of mocks, but make sure you are not attempting the mocks before 3 months. Just close to the exam, when the exam is away for 2 to 3 months, start attempting the mocks. Moving on. Okay, so this is really interesting, and many parents, they ask us the question, how can we select the 11 plus exam tutors? Now, the 11 plus, for 11 plus exam, there are many tutors available in the market. But what is really important for you as a parent is first check your tutor's qualification. So make sure if the tutor is teaching maths, the tutor is qualified purely for maths. If tutor is teaching English, tutor is qualified for English, so on and so on. Check the tutor's 11 plus exam teaching experience, because 11 plus exam is completely a different level of exam. It's a competitive exam. So tutors or the teachers who are very well aligned for the national curriculum, not necessarily be teaching for 11 plus exam. So you have to definitely make sure the tutor which you are going to have for 11 plus exam journey is highly experienced, typical for 11 plus exam. Then check the success rate. So you can definitely ask a question to the tutor, how many students you tutored, how many schools they achieved, and what's your success rate. Check the tutor's 11 plus exam plan and structure. Many tutors, they do not have a plan or they do not have a structure, and that's the biggest problem. And not many parents realize that when they start having the tutor, when they onboard the tutor. So this is something that you have to really have one-on-one dialogue with the tutor. Ask him or her what is the plan you are having in place and what is the structure for every lesson you are tutoring to my child. Finally, check if the tutor is fully aware about 11 plus exam curriculum. Again, I'm coming to my same point. As this is a completely different exam, the tutor must be aware of the 11 plus exam curriculum. Yeah, moving on. This is a very, very common question. Almost every parent who comes to our website, whenever we are running a lot of webinars or workshop, and this question is how to select the best school. Some of the parameters which you have definitely need to think about is firstly choose your home location. You have to make a decision whether it is a selective school or I want to send my child to the non-selective school. When I'm talking about the selective school, it means it includes the grammar schools as well as the independent schools. So selective means the school which is having the entrance exam. Check catchment area, because that's where many of the applicants, they get rejected, because if you are not falling within the catchment area, the things become more problematic. Review oversubscription criteria. Most of the schools in and around London, they are highly oversubscribed. So you need to check what is the oversubscription criteria, what happened in the past 3 years, how the school was oversubscribed. So you need to study all of those parameters. The most importantly, school rating, Ofsted rating. Very, very important thing here that you need to visit the schools. And I think one of the parent asked me the question that how we going to make sure that there are the open days or there are the events run by the school. So that's the thing. You need to keep visiting our website, because we post a lot of events under the event section. I will show you in a minute. Or you need to visit the official website of the school. But whichever way you go, you must visit the school. The very important factor which you have to take into consideration is the GCSE and the A-level results. So when you are choosing a school, check what was their GCSE and A-level result. Depends upon your child, what extracurricular activities the child is liking. Based on that, you can choose the school. Understand the admission policies. You can consider your child's interest. Talk to the current parent whose children are going to those schools. Assess the transport link. Again, very important thing, and that's why the first point comes in picture, that you have to have your home location decided well in advance, because basis on that you can check what are the transport links, whether the child is going to take a public transport or whether the school is providing the bus transport or whatever the transport links are located around your home. Look at the bursaries and scholarships. If you are applying for the scholarship, make sure that school offers the scholarship. This is mostly related with the independent school. And finally, review the class sizes. More or less, the class sizes are smaller anyway, but yeah, this is something that you can think about. Moving on, Urvashi. Yes. So now what is the most interesting thing in this entire workshop, that we are offering you a 1 week of free access to our SchoolUniGuide website. And whoever are attendees of this webinar, we are going to send a detailed email, and you can check that email to make sure that you are logging using the credentials which we are providing to get the free access. I will show you on SchoolUniGuide website how you can use this free access. I will walk you through our pricing plan as well, and I will show you what are the important things which can be really helpful for any parent to take an informed decision. So Urvashi, please open our homepage of SchoolUniGuide. Correct. So here we go. So this is our website. You can search literally any school on our website. You can get a lot of detailed information in a very consolidated manner on our website. You can check other things like even the courses, universities, events, everything. And we do have a dedicated exam prep section, and you can check all the exam preparation resources there. So let me show you how you can search a school. So say, for example, if I'm searching for City of London School for Girls, and here we go. So we will be opening the page for you. Yeah. So you see here, we tried to answer all the questions which any parents has in their journey of choosing the best school. So we do have on our website the school information, admission, GCSE A-level result, communities we do have. I will open one more school for you, which is a Tiffin Girls School, which is a grammar school. So this is the independent school, and we do have the grammar schools as well. You just need to put a name of the school in the search box. So here we go. So as I said, whenever you are making an informed decision of choosing the school, you have to first decide your residence, and then secondly, you need to think about the catchment area, whether you are within the catchment area. So in usual scenarios, this catchment area, as you can see it here, 4.10 miles or 4.10 to 435 miles, all these catchment areas, we do not disclose it to every parents, and that's where we are giving you 1 week of free access. You can definitely explore. You will get all the login details through our email, and you can log into our dashboard. The dashboard icon is located on the top right, and you can log in through the dashboard. And in the dashboard, you can check whatever is the premium information for which you need to pay. Usually, we are making it free for 1 week. And that's pretty much about all the catchment area, GCSE A-level result, Ofsted. As I said, it's really important for you to make sure that what is the Ofsted rating for that particular school. So Urvashi is sharing with you the 3 circles which shows the catchment area. This is really interesting. And you can also check how far is the school from your home location. So this is a very, very interesting feature of our map. We kept all the maps highly interactive. And this is something, all our parents, they enjoy. We have right now more than 10,000 users on the website, and you can definitely use it for your child as well. And the most important thing which I would like to share with you, that we have very recently launched. Yeah, there is a oversubscribed criteria as well. Yeah. Mm, one more thing which I would like to show you about is the guide. In fact, we released this guide just today in this workshop only. So this guide will navigate you to choose the top 100 independent schools. We are offering 30% discount today. You can use again the same coupon code SUG30 to waive off 30% from this guide. And we are sending you the link in our chat, so you can directly buy this guide at the end of this webinar. And the beauty of this guide is there are a lot of things which we have incorporated. One, which is the immersive school map experience. We have the dedicated pages for every school. We do have covered lot of articles in this guide. There are around more than 300 pages in this guide. So you can take your time to go through this guide as well. I have got few questions from the parents. So I will take that and I will navigate through our website. The questions which I have got, they are pretty interesting. Let me take them one by one. So one of the parent is asking, Sunil, could you share where we find the details about upcoming open days and events? As a professional in this field, what would you recommend for staying updated? Yeah, very interesting question. So Urvashi, show us our event dedicated page. So most of the time we keep our events here, so you can visit the events here on our website. The next question which I have got from, I'm not sure about the parents, but I'm not sure about other parents, but I'm really struggling to create an effective study plan for my child's 11 plus exam preparation. Do you have any advice on how to balance practice, schoolwork, and free time? Oh, it's a very long question. So when it comes to the study plan, or when it comes to the planner, once you get a subscription to our website of the SchoolUniGuide, in the dashboard, we have kept a lot of exemplar planners. I will show you in a second. So you have to go to your dashboard once you have access to it. And there are the 11 plus journey planners. You can check all your 11 plus exam journey planners here. And other interesting thing which I can show you, which is available on the Pi Academy's website as well. On Pi Academy, we do have a lot of papers, 11 plus papers, English papers. So on there, so Urvashi, if you can open 11 plus maths past papers. Yeah, there we have many planners available. So we have a dedicated planner for each subject on the Pi Academy's website, and we have the holistic planner for the 11 plus exam journey on SchoolUniGuide website. So by all means, the planners and all the blogs are absolutely free. You can sign up to both of our website and you can download these planners right away. The planner download is completely free of cost. You can use those planners. There is one more question. There are many questions, in fact, now. Dylan is asking, with regards to the results, are GCSE results more important or the A-level results? It is a minefield out there. I feel that you need to take a call based on what is the requirement for your child. Some people, they look at the GCSE result because sometimes they feel that I want to change the school from GCSE to A level. Some parents, they think that once we get the admission into the secondary school, we don't want to change the schools, and in that case, A level result matters a lot. And I will show you what you can do in terms of comparison. So Urvashi, if you can go to the, for example, Tiffin Girls School, which we have opened already. Yeah. here we kept all the GCSE and A-level results. And in fact, you can compare one school with the other and you can compare the results of both of the schools together. So that's how, you can make a comparison and have an informed decision. So Urvashi, go to the schools, Tiffin school, and if you click on the compare button on the Tiffin school. Yeah. Yeah, go to the Tiffin school or any school basically. You can compare actually any school with anything. Here we go. So here as an example, if you want to study the GCSE and A level result of two different schools, then that all provision is here. You can see a very side by side comparison of any schools. You can take your time to explore our website. As I said, you can compare 3 schools at a time, which is really interesting. You can check their exams, you can check their exam boards. Lot of information is there. Now I can see, thank you for Vanessa is saying thank you for comprehensive explanation and the workshop. Could you provide some guidance on how to select the right catchment area for a grammar school? What factors should we consider when making this decision? So what we are going to do, Vanessa, at the end of this webinar, we are going to send you all our PowerPoint and all the pointers which I have discussed in my today's workshop. Along with that, we are hosting the live stream of this entire workshop on our YouTube channel. So Urvashi, if you can send the link to our YouTube channel, you can revisit those slides. And if you can note down all the 12 to 15 pointers I have explained to get your informed decision and work along those points, then that will help you, in order to figure out what is the best school, how you can choose the best catchment area. One more thing which I would suggest you to log into our website on the SchoolUniGuide, and on the blog pages, we have answered all of your questions. So there are many blogs available already on the SchoolUniGuide. So Urvashi, if you can go to the blog landing page, here I can show you. Yeah, so the beauty of this blog page is that you can select on the left-hand side the filter, and we have many blogs written on the catchment area as well, and that will resolve all your questions within those blogs. If you can select the school, just explore this website, give this link to the parent so that they can explore all our blog articles. Okay, there is a question from OnePlus. Any advice for parents and children who are in year 3? What should they do to start early? Again, we have answered all these questions on our blog articles, but I will tell you a very interesting thing, and this is a very common question. So Urvashi, if you go to Pi Academy's website, there on the courses page on the top, 11 plus courses. Yes, on this page, we have year 4 foundation classes. So basically, these are meant for year 3 as well as year 4. You can enroll your child for our classes, and that's the way it can be very helpful to start the journey early. What should they do to start early? So your question is what you need to be doing to start the journey early. Very consistently, you need to make sure that at least 15 minutes or 20 minutes the child is spending on every subject like maths, English, VR and VR. And on the Pi Academy's website, you can see under pre-11 plus papers, we do have year 3 specific papers. I will open it for you. Maybe Namrata, you can give the link of those papers directly in the chat. Pre-11 plus papers. Yeah, there you can see we have 7 plus maths topic wise, 8 plus, 9 plus, 10 plus. So it's very helpful for your child if you start practicing these 8 plus, 9 plus and 10 plus papers, because the child is in year 3, and this will become very helpful for your child to start the preparation early. We will be sending you the link on the Zoom chat as well here. Dylan is saying thank you so much. Yes. Sunil is saying very helpful. Look forward to check the entire website. Thank you very much. I think, yeah, these are the pretty much questions we got it. And you can join our WhatsApp group and the YouTube channel and the Insta. Follow us on Insta, and we are giving many tips for the guidance. So please use SUG30 coupon code, and you can avail 30% off. We already have 50% off on our annual subscription plan. You can have 1 week of free trial on our monthly subscription, and you can buy the guide with the coupon code applied. So all the links we have gave it on the chat. Okay, I think that's pretty much. Thank you very much for joining our today's workshop, and we will be definitely bringing more and more helpful and the guidance workshop to all our parents. Thanks a lot. Log in to our SchoolUniGuide website and you will start having the notifications as well. Thank you.